DAHGRILDER. This is actually a bonus episode that I am actually motivated by the 20th year anniversary of September the 11th. It is kind of like in honor and in memory of that day, in honor of the people we lost, and especially the firemen up in New York. But it's mostly about the day, that day. Of course, that year or that day, I was working at the airport, which is kind of like the epicenter of what happened, or the nucleus of how this country was attacked. So, with airplanes, basically. So, I was working at the airport, and I had just gotten to work, so it was, my day was beginning. But all of a sudden, the entire airport went quiet. Like, when I tell you quiet, you're usually hearing the plane engines, you're usually hearing the commotion or the motion outside on the taxiways, because I worked in a secured area, of course, down in the gate areas where the office was that we worked out of. So anyway, it went totally quiet. When I say quiet, I mean you heard nothing that you usually hear. And then all of a sudden, of course, the office phone started ringing, and it was my first team staff member. Actually, I was a supervisor, my employee, who was calling to let me know that they were stuck on the MARTA train that was coming to the airport. When I say stuck on the train, I mean stuck. They stopped. Apparently, they stopped the train service from coming to the airport or MARTA moving at all. They stopped the whole north-south line. So I was like, oh, okay. Of course, I had no idea what was going on at the time because I was at work getting prepared for work. Then another phone call came in, and it was another one of my, I'll say, team members, but it was another employee saying that they're stuck on the train. Of course, all right. So, like, okay, everybody's stuck on the train. So I kind of expected that to keep rolling in and to continue rolling in. And then one employee that actually made it into work had to get a ride in, but she came in and she said, "Did you hear?" And I was like, "Hear what? What am I supposed to be hearing?" Of course, I'm getting prepared to work. She said, planes were just driven into the World Trade Towers, and I'm like, what? Like, come on. Anyway, what they had to do, because actually she came late, so I'm like, that's why you're late? That's in New York. Kind of dismissed it like that. But then, of course, her saying that kind of made everything that happened with the airport going quiet more. Well, it made sense then. So I left the office, went upstairs to one of the gates where there was a television, and there it was. Sure enough, they stopped everything when the first plane went into the first building, and on live TV we all witnessed the second plane, which you don't know how something like that is going to affect you while you're watching it. It's not something you can even. It wasn't something no one in America could even imagine seeing on live television. This attack. I mean, if you imagine that and you're Steven Spielberg, someone who makes movies, but watching that on live television, it was horrible. I mean, you just have to say to yourself, at that time, like, this isn't happening. It's a movie. And I think that hope that it was a movie, or that it was a hoax, or someone had hacked the live video feed of televisions across America. The hope that that was it was something you hoped, but as we came to find out, hope didn't help us. It was terrible. It was the truth. It was life. We were attacked. Of course, from the history of the World Trade Towers, that wasn't the first time it was attempted, but to see it done on live television and the effect it has on humans, I think that day was the day that there was no color in America. There was no black. There was no white. There was no race. If you were an American, you were affected. If you were a red-blooded human, you were affected. No matter what the motivation behind that incident, you were affected, and it changed our lives tremendously. Days following that terrorist attack in New York, the airport where I worked at was on lockdown. When I tell you lockdown, it was you don't go or come unless it's your shift. You don't go or come unless you have an ATL badge around your neck. There's no coming to visit no one. That was the beginning of everything that we're dealing with screening measures. I mean, I was on the ground when they started to change security measures at Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson Airport, which we know is at times, most times, the busiest airport in the world. And what we saw after humans chose to attack humans was humans began to fear humans, and that was where humanity, we began to lose ourselves, because the number of people, innocent people, that was lost, the lives that was lost that day, it will never be understood. I don't care, 20, 30 years from now, I'm gone, you're gone. It'll never be understood what was lost that day, because you don't see that coming. Now, put yourself in the place of the people who were on the planes that were hijacked. You don't see that coming. That's not something you see coming. That's not something you wake up and prepare yourself for. You prepare yourself to go where you're going, from A to B and back from B to A. You prepare yourself for that. This country has since been prepared for that. We have overly prepared for that. But days and weeks following that, it turned into we proving that we don't have any malicious intent towards other humans. We're all guilty. What are we guilty of as humans? Are we guilty of living our lives? Are we guilty of being the greatest country on this planet? Now, if you have offense with America being the greatest country on this planet, then hey, just look at it. It is a melting pot of humans, souls. People are dying to get here. They are risking everything to come to this country. So if you don't have a bit of patriotism in you for this day, September the 11th, then God help you. And I say God in the sense of the Pledge of Allegiance, God. I say God in the sense of that this country, in God we trust. I say God in the way that your faith, no matter what faith, that day It was challenged. It was changed. It was put into perspective. That day, our love for our brothers and our sisters without color, without borders, was changed. We stood. We didn't stand divided. We were together. I mean, things have since taken an awful turn. But today is and every day of the year since that year, today has been a day where all Americans, we weren't judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Dr. King, this is a day where his dream was actually reinvested in our souls. This day, if we could live every day remembering our losses and our gains as humans on September the 11th, if we could live each day thinking, I have to love my brother, I have to love my sister, white, black, no matter the race, I have to love them, because we all could lose each other. Because there's a force out there in human nature that wants to wipe us out. In human nature that wants humanity divided, dead. But that day wasn't that day. The weeks following wasn't that day. It's horrible that the years following is those days. But today is not. Today is about looking at the person next to you. If you pass a fireman, if you pass a police officer, you have to thank them, because what they stand for, what they represent, was on the front line of that situation. Those firemen climbed those stairs trying to save people and lost their lives. You think about your morning, you think about your day, and you think what you have to be up against. But those men and women walked into a burning building with a plane in it to save lives. Those were police officers. Those were firemen. Those were volunteers. Those were humans that they had a goal to save someone, not even themselves. I don't care. Today is the day that servitude, patriotism, the love for your brother, despite the color, despite the race, should come into perspective for you, should come into perspective for everyone that you know. If you say to yourself you're a hardcore racist and you hate black people, please, not today. If you say you're a hardcore black militant and you hate white people, not today. Today will always be a day in history where our losses will be the same, no matter our race. The impact on our life, our lives, our days and our nights will be the same, no matter your place. Across this country, across this world, this day stands as an international day of loss, because the souls, the humans that was lost that day are internationally lost. And in honor of that half staff, our hearts are half full. This was a special episode of DAHGRILDER. Thanks for listening. Stay blessed.